So I am joined today with Austin West, my man.
What's up, brother?
Thank you for being
Good to be
here.
here, man.
Yeah, so this has kind of been a few weeks, months in the making, and Austin is a man of many hats. He's actually out here in Boulder right now for a elk hunt, but not just any elk hunt. We'll get into that. And he's also the founder of Enthios. Enthios, shout out. And I want to give you the floor to actually explain what Enthios is.
Good to be here, man. Appreciate you having me on. Yeah, Enthios it's my microdose mission. It's what I've been called to serve in this life. And the way it found me, as most people discover on the medicine path, is the medicine calls to you when you need it most. And this is back in 2018. I was unknowing of how fucking miserable I was. And I was working in finance at the time. I was blackout drinking 2 to 3 days a week. I was on 5 different pharmaceuticals. I was participating in the hookup culture, the meaningless sex. I was addicted to pornography. I was on steroids, on and on, man. You know, I was doing blow every single weekend and replacing that with Adderall during the week. And it's like I knew a part of me, the whispers of the heart, right? Or what the Greeks would call the daemon. It's like the part of us that's whispering constantly that we hear, but we get so good at distracting, numbing, and suppressing from it that we continue to perpetuate the behaviors it's asking us to look at. And I was very much in that hole where I was suffering and addicted and wasn't looking at it. Go to the beach one day with some buddies, and one of my friends gives me mushroom chocolate. And about an hour and a half after taking that chocolate, everything changed, dude. Because it's like, I knew I wasn't happy. I knew I didn't like my life. I knew I didn't enjoy my choices, my behaviors, the environments I was in, the people I was hanging out with, but I couldn't grab it. It was like it was slippery.
Yeah.
And I think this is something that a lot of people relate to, because there are these parts of ourselves that we see, but we've gotten so good at creating the barriers and the distortions around our truth to whatever that is, that it becomes slippery. And so it took this first microdose on the beach, and in that quieting of the mind, the mental rumination just really settling, feeling the sand on my feet, feeling the sun on my skin for the first time, I was able to really grab like, oh, I fucking hate my life.
Wow.
And everything from that moment changed, because I was able to confront and meet myself in a truth that I had been ignoring for many years. And that was kind of didn't know it at the time, but that was the birth of Enthios Holistics, my microdosing mission.
Totally. And I think so many people can resonate with that, myself included. In the past, I was so unhappy for so many reasons, so confused, not knowing where to go, not knowing where the goodness is. Where is it? This world is so cold. Everyone's just chasing money, clout, power, sort of superficial status. And I'm like, who the fuck cares? Is this it? And I had this deep sadness, curiosity, and also just not knowing, like, is this really it? Because if this is life, I've seen enough. I'm over it. And it is so difficult for people to come to terms with that story, which is, if this is life, I've seen enough. This is not a life worth living. This superficial bullshit that so many people get caught in for lifetimes. And we skim on the surface, and recognizing that we can't actually access the depth that soul is looking for. Again, you referenced the diamond, the spirits, the angels, what they're asking from us. We push away their words and their desires and just keep focusing on what the culture says. Money, status, power. Why am I so fucking unhappy? I beat the game. So many people with so much materially are so impoverished spiritually. There's no depth. They're stuck in this shallow existence. And I think it's the rejection of the truth that is that my life kind of sucks when I'm living in this shallow, materialistic, superficial way. And to hear you coming from that place after you said you were making $600K a year, living the dream, doing blow. I mean, inevitably, you're going to ask, is this it?
Yep.
Is this it? And you found, by the grace of God, that's how I put it. When I found psychedelics, I see it as really the grace of God. And thank God for that. And now you have this mission. And what is that mission of Enthios?
Yeah, I believe, not everybody's ready to go sit with ayahuasca or take 5 grams of mushrooms, but everybody's ready to meet themselves in a new way,
Mm.
right? And so I'm such a profound believer in microdosing because it is the most subtle way to incorporate this medicine into your life to meet yourself at a new level that brings forth the truth that you've been avoiding.
Mm.
I believe that psychedelics in general are arbiters of truth,
Mm.
right? They don't make you feel anything. They're revealing what's already there. They don't make you think anything. They're revealing what's already there. And so for me, microdosing is a spiritual practice of reconnecting to the mind, the body, and the soul.
Yes.
Because through that reconnection to self is how we find reconnection to the divine.
Yes.
And I think it's important too, just to kind of riff for a second on the mind, body, soul trio. That Trinity has been talked about in every major religion and spiritual tradition for all of eternity. And so there's something there for us, right? Like it's speaking to something. And in my belief is that our connection to mind and soul, our belief systems about those are what create our manifest reality that we call the body. And the mind is our awareness. It's the awareness of our thoughts, our actions, our behaviors, our choices, our patterns that dictate and run our life, which have most people living in a very reactionary lens, instead of being response-able towards life. And then you have the body, which is just our emotions, right? And our emotional capacity is learned at such a young age. It's like the mind also represents the masculine, right? The father archetype. The body, our emotions, represents the inner child, the divine child, because all those patterns are learned at a young age. And for anybody that's sick, people think they're physically sick, but really they're spiritually sick.
Yeah. Dude, I could riff on this forever, and maybe we might. So
yeah. And then get just one last, and then get into the soul. The soul's the heart. The soul's the present moment, right? And the soul is where your intuition lives. It's where your purpose lives. It's where all parts of you that you desire to be connected to is born from. But the mind, the mind cannot live in the present moment. It only lives in the past and in the future. The heart can only live in the present moment. And so it's about connecting to the mind in a way that we can make sense of a reality and notice with our enhanced awareness how our reality is already unfolding, and then reconnecting to the soul or the heart to discover, why am I here? What is my authentic expression? And listening to that guiding intuition that takes us to where we're always meant to be.
And I think that we live in such a mental, heady world in the West. And I think there's multiple reasons for that. One of which is that the body, although it holds the wisdom, I would say existential wisdom, transcendent wisdom, it also holds pain. And so many of us have never been taught the skill of holding pain. And as a result, we live in stories. Yes, it hurts now, but someday in the future, when I make X amount of money or have X amount of power, things will be okay. And thus we live in this heady conceptual experience of reality instead of being deeply embodied in the heart, in the spirit, in the soul, in our own deepest wisdom. Some people also, they don't even live in the mind. They live dissociated because the mind turns into a very unpleasant place too. Just ask anyone who's lived in the mind for long enough. It can turn on you. It will, actually, inevitably. And the key here is starting to sink into the body to feel what needs to be felt. Maybe the fact that my life is not what I want. Maybe the fact that I don't know where I'm going. What is my purpose? I think so many people unconsciously avoid that not knowing because it's uncomfortable. I don't know where I'm going with life. Again, my purpose. I don't know who I am. I don't know what's real. Sit with that. When we can sit with that not knowing, actually, we can change our relationship to it. Because interwoven in that not knowing is actually a resistance to not knowing. So when I extract that resistance and I can accept not knowing, all of a sudden we enter into a very peaceful experience with what I would call the void, with the absence of certainty. And that's where we can start to let something beyond ourselves pull the strings of our lives, to sink into that intuitive knowing of how do I show up? How do I behave? Where do I want to direct my life? And let spirit move through us, not in this contracted conceptual experience of self, saying what I am is Ben the human. What I am is this personality, this character, the accumulation of my experiences. This is the sense of self that we normally inhabit. But what if that was just a story in our minds? If we sink into the heart, into the place beyond story, who is living through you? What is speaking through you. And so many of us get caught up in anxiety, not knowing what's the right move, where do I need to go, how do I show up in social situations. And when we can sink into the heart, the knowing's already there, and how to show up, how to behave, where to go in life. And how we access that heart wisdom is through facing those demons, facing our fear, being in the heart and saying, actually, there's a place for this fear. There's a place for this uncertainty. I can hold all of these things, the doubt, the trauma, all of it. I can hold it. And when I can hold it all, interestingly, the negativity, the pain associated with trauma, fear of death, big things, starts to drain out of the experience through being able to hold it instead of pushing it away. Let me distract, let me numb, let me drink the problems away. Let me fall into the infinite addictions we have available to us as human beings, aka like sex, pornography, work, anything but sitting with what the angels are trying to tell me. And that knowing is profound. And it reminds me of this story, really, which is Dante's Inferno, which is when you're in hell, according to the story, the only way out is actually to crawl through Satan's mouth, which is the last place you would think, right? So going directly into the demons, as Marcus Aurelius said, the obstacle is the way. Always, always, always. What's that thing that you're avoiding? Is it getting a new job? Is it leaving a relationship? Is it surrendering to the fact that I don't know who I am? The fact that I don't know what to do with my life. When I can surrender to that, we can walk through Satan's mouth and find that the gates of heaven are none other than Satan's mouth, if we can walk through it. And and I'm speaking poetically right now, but this is the path of, in my mind, psychotherapy. This is also the spiritual path, is becoming more deeply acquainted with the things that seem at first glance as deeply painful, scary, and actually just being curious. What are these things? Do I need to be afraid? Do I need to be afraid of death? Do I even need to be afraid of pain? Do I need to be afraid of being alone? Do I need to be afraid of not being enough? And if you become curious enough, what I've found for me is I don't have to be afraid of any of it. It's not a requirement. And actually, when I can look it in the eyes, when I can look my experience in the eyes, when I can look my demons in the eyes, they actually transform. And that's the scariest thing we can do as human beings, to look our demons in the eyes. But again, that's where this, I would say, almost prophetic, mythic, alchemical process starts to unfold, where we can become really free of the grip of fear. We can be free of the grip of our past, of trauma, and open up to something that I would call, again, poetically, heaven on earth, recognizing how much of this world might be constructed in our minds, how much of this world is a product of my conditioning. All of it, bro, all of it. And then what world can I come in contact with when I'm free of all that conditioning? And what's beautiful here is Buddhism would say you won't find that world. It's the void. And we are constructing all of it. So let's deconstruct the shitty, painful, limiting, restrictive, oppressive narratives that are actually tormenting us, just through inquiry, curiosity, and asking the question, is this real? And then deconstruct it to the degree where things are very fluid. And then at that point, reconstruct narratives, interpretations of experiences, senses of self that invoke connection to self, connection to God, deep experiences of meaningfulness, beauty. Those experiences for me that have literally dropped me to my knees, where I'm in tears, like off a bunch of mushrooms in the mountains, looking at some of the most beautiful places I've ever been, crying. Those experiences are not just given, they're co-created.
Yeah.
And can we create more of those experiences that you'll look back on your deathbed and say, that was what life was about? They're constructed, and we can make them as deep, rich, and fulfilling, and often as we want. And these are insights that I have been able to really just see through many things, meditation being one of the most important, in my opinion, but also psychedelics. And what they've done for me is they seem to be able to loosen those rigid psychological structures that we are inhabiting, unconsciously believing, and walking through. There's more levity, there's more looseness. And when the very contracted worldview that we're conditioned into starts to loosen, that density starts to become more fluid. Interestingly, there's more space.
Mhm.
You can breathe, and that's what I found on psilocybin, like the first few times, and still when I take psilocybin, is there's more levity, and actually there's more space for the light to get through, for us to see the beauty of this place, and for the spirits to move through us.
Yeah, man. And it's one of the things that I feel like you touched on in a myriad of ways, and all of that is the necessary requirement of truth.
Hmm.
Right? Truth is the frequency that clears the distortions that we're living in our life.
Mm.
And bringing in, because I know we're both big fans of Hermeticism, the Kabbalion.
Mhm.
I actually have it tattooed right here: all truths but half truths,
Mm.
from
Mm.
the principle of polarity.
Can you say that again?
All truths are but half truths.
And can you explain that?
Yeah. And so just to frame truth in a different way real quick, it's like, I think people have a really difficult time with truth because they're making meaning of it.
Mm.
I can't admit that I'm not happy in this relationship because, and then ego comes in, traumas come in, wounding comes in, and starts telling all these stories about what that truth would mean. Right? If I admit this, it means we're not going to be together. She's going to get mad at me. It's like, no. The only way to evolve out of the thing that is true that you're feeling is to admit the truth that you're feeling in the first place.
Mm.
Right? And I've had this in past relationships where our deepest level of experience in vulnerability and intimacy only came after both of us acknowledging the place that we're in within the relationship and not making meaning from it. And so really analyzing, looking at any part of my life, where am I ignoring my truth or absolving the truth because I'm making meaning of what I think admitting that to myself would be.
Mm.
And the irony is, once we start to speak and acknowledge and really own these truths, it starts
Mm.
to clear the field of distortion that so many of us are living in.
Yeah.
And when we clear that field of distortion, our desires naturally rise to the surface.
Mm.
And the desire is the thing pulling you towards what you're meant to learn in this life to continue evolving. Right. And so the reason I love that quote and why I got that one tattooed on me specifically, all truths are but half truths, meaning a truth is meant to lead you to the next truth. It is not fixed.
Mm-hmm. So good, bro.
Right. And if we just let ourselves acknowledge the truth of what is alive for me now in the moment, then I can find out what the next truth is waiting for me.
Yes.
And it doesn't also absolve your truth against mine, because your truth of your experience might be different than mine, even though we're looking at a situation from a same perspective, both
Mhm.
involved. But as long as I know that's true for me, then I can actually have compassion and empathy for
Mhm.
yours and want to bridge that gap with curiosity
Mhm.
rather than creating separatism, telling you that you are wrong.
Yeah.
Right. And so the principle polarity, all is the same but differing in degree.
Mm.
Where on that scale am I to where I can absolve judgment to meet myself, excuse me, in the truth of my experience? Because
Mhm.
that is where we're going to find paradox, which is where we find freedom.
Yes, exactly. I was just talking about this coming back from snowboarding today. With my homie, we were talking about truth and talking about what that means for us,
Yeah.
and understanding that some of our truths are going to be completely in conflict.
Yeah.
And I mean, relationships are such a potent example where it's like, how can I be so in love with this person and still feel desire for another person, for another one, another partner? How is that true? How can that be true? That doesn't make sense. And it's acknowledging that truth and being honest with it, not just with ourselves, obviously first with ourselves. And honestly, recognizing there's nothing wrong with that. And then being able to share that, being like, hey, here's where I'm at. Here's my truth right now. Here's what I'm feeling. Can you hold this? Can we explore this together as human beings?
Because that doesn't mean you don't want to be with the person.
Exactly.
It's telling the truth of your experience to clear the distortions between you and them to actually meet at a deeper level of vulnerability and intimacy.
Boom.
And
Yes.
I have a radically different perspective of desire than Buddhism,
Mm.
than even, a lot of people have really appreciated David Hawkins' work, like Scales of Consciousness. And desire is just below anger, which is wild to me. And what that scale represents is they did this frequency test with thousands of human beings and rated different emotions on the scale from 0 to enlightenment, essentially, with authenticity being the highest thing, even a higher expression of frequency than love, authenticity, right? And it's something like shame, guilt, apathy, desire, fear, anger, fear, or fear, desire, anger. It's at the lower end of scales.
Yeah.
One of the my most impactful spiritual teaching in my life, two of them, Hermeticism, obviously, it's painted all over my entire
Mm.
right arm here, and the law of one.
Mm.
And the law of one teaches that desire isn't inherently good or bad. And the problem with like David Hawkins' scale or even Buddhism is they've painted desire as something to be judged,
Yeah.
as we're not supposed to be desirous.
Yeah.
But really, desire is about taking us towards what we're meant to learn in this life. So desire is pulling us towards the catalyst, towards the teaching. Where I think people get confused about desire is we have this inclination that we believe desire is supposed to be acted on. No. Desire is supposed to be held in truth. And then we have choice. Do I need to enact that desire, or can I learn the lesson that it's bringing me to without needing to learn it at all? So without needing to enact the desire at all. In the relational context you're speaking of, speaking the truth of I'm feeling this attraction towards another person, but you not going out and actually enacting on that, you're recognizing that the teaching and owning that truth of what's happening is giving you an opportunity to actually open your heart up at a deeper level, which could absolve the desire for someone else.
Wow.
Because you're actually able to meet this person at a deeper level instead of suppressing that. Because when we suppress desire instead of learning from it, that's going to manifest in a shadowy way.
Repression becomes obsession.
Yes. And so it's like changing the attunement of truth and desire and how we hold these things, that everything in life we are creating for ourselves to teach us about ourselves in this experience of life. And so everything in my reality and everything I feel and everything I attract and everything being mirrored back to me is just teaching me how to meet myself at deeper levels. It doesn't mean I need to participate in any of it. I just need to recognize the truth of it. And that alone, I mean, this is really what psychedelics have taught me more than anything else, is how to meet the truth of my experience without judgment.
Boom.
And then being able to sink into the vulnerability and intimacy to speak to these things and own these things, which is the absolution of shame and guilt. And from that place, we really do step into being the creators of our life.
Yes.
Because we are then in co-creation with the creator.
And that's what I found to be the most essential part for personal growth. I mean, personal growth, spiritual growth, whatever you want to call it, is just, again, meeting our truth. And Tibetan Buddhist teacher Andrew Holacek says, real spirituality is not about feeling good. It's about getting real. It's about being honest. Life fucking sucks sometimes. Sometimes you're getting railed by life, and that's your truth. And the more I resist that, it's like quicksand. The deeper I'm going to sink and the harder it is to get out. When I can say, checkmate life, you got me. You win. The quicker I can come to that acceptance of difficult experiences, the easier it is to get out of those difficult experiences. And I want to also touch on that all truths are but half truths. And what's interesting in Buddhism is this corresponds to the teaching of emptiness, which I talk about quite a bit. And emptiness has, just the word emptiness has this nihilistic tint to it, where it's like, oh, everything's empty, meaningless. That's not an understanding that I want to gain insight into. Most people think like that, but emptiness is not empty. Emptiness means that there is no fixed way that things are. There's no fixed me. There's no fixed world. All things do not exist from their own side. They actually require the mind, your mind, our mind, in order for it to be real. And this is where this notion of desire in, let's just say, traditional Theravadan Buddhism, the whole path of Theravadan Buddhism is to completely eliminate desire as a means of accessing deep transcendent freedom. And I will say that that path is true, but that's only one flavor of freedom. We can find freedom from desire by getting rid of it. And we can also find freedom within desire, a different flavor of freedom. And again, all truths are but half truths. And recognizing that if it's all empty, if it's all being filtered through my mind, my interpretation, the conceptual frameworks that I have operating, then the quest shifts from looking for the objective truth, because we recognize there is no such thing. It's all going to be built, constructed, fabricated. It's going to be a relative truth, yes. But at the ultimate level, it's going to be fabricated, empty, made up in mind, imaginary. And at that phase of what I would say the path, that phase of the path, the question shifts from what is objectively real, what is objectively true, to what view leads to a desirable experience right now in the present moment, without clinging unskillfully to any view. I'm a winner, I'm a loser, I'm a success, I'm a failure. The world is real or the world is a dream. Both are equally made up. Both are equally real. And that's where the freedom is, the conceptual mind. And actually what's interesting is the ego, the separate self. It requires some solid ground to stand on. Our identification with ego, a solid separate self, again, by definition, needs some certainty. It needs to say the world is this way or that way. So when we start to lean into these discussions of the fluidity of experience, of emptiness, the ego is actually going to be kicking and screaming if we identify with it. Because when the world is empty, by default, the ego must be too. So that's going to be an ego death. And the ego, what we think that we are, is going to disregard it, doubt it, say, what does this guy know? This is bullshit. And at the same time, what's interesting is when we talk about these deep ultimate truths, something in the heart actually might also resonate and actually already know this. Again, that's the wisdom of the heart that knows the emptiness already without putting words to it. It knows it's all in your mind. And that, again, that's where the freedom is not creating solid ground, not having the need to create solid ground, to be able to float through the void and to fabricate different worlds, different senses of self without saying this is really me. Recognizing that the ego that I wear is a fabrication, and actually that it always will be. There's no way we can escape that. There's any time there is any sense of self, it's going to be built. Always. There's no you we could ever come to that is not built. And again, that is freedom. Even, let's just say, the notion of death, the existential primordial fear for all separate selves, is actually a fabricated, empty, conceptual experience. And what happens when I don't conceive it in a way that is scary, or even conceive it in a way that is real? Because ultimately, I mean, this is kind of trippy and we're going on a real riff right now, but life, when I say that I'm alive right now, when I use that language, when I cast that spell, I imply death. It's in Buddhism, they would call it a dependent co-arising. Where there's life, there's death. Where there's good, there's bad. Where there's angels, there's demons. When you create one, you create another. So what happens if I don't call this life? I don't even call this experience. Anytime I put a word to it, there's going to be the absence of life or experience. When I just am here and with this, interestingly, the notion of death, the conceptual fabrication that is death, fades too. And all we are is here. We're stepping into the ineffable, where words are not an accurate description of what we're speaking to. And this comes down to the agency and the radical power that we all have, and I'm getting chills saying this, to construct infinite worlds. And this is what psychedelics help with. And this is what I want to give to people, is not just the conceptual map, not just hearing me speak about this. And I hope having people who listen, I hope that they resonate with this. I hope something in the being is hearing this, and it might not make complete sense, but something has a flavor for it, and it sort of already gets it. I want to lead people to those places, to that curiosity, and then interweave the altered states that are psychedelics for a more neuroplasticity. Again, to break down the solidified conceptual fabricated experiences that we're not just thinking, that we're walking through, that we're inhabiting right now. Break them down so the light can get through, and that we can come back to take the reins over life and recognize we are the creators. As above, so below. As above, so below. We are that. Tatvamasi. And that's the thing. We are that. God, it can be very far away sometimes. And I think there's a beauty in the more dualistic experience of spirituality, of the sacred. And I think that there's a real beauty in collapsing that duality and bringing it back to the miraculous nature of right now. Beyond Ben and Austin, beyond sacred and profane, beyond right and wrong, beyond life and death. What is this? Somebody tell me, what is this? And we start to tap into the ineffable, the void, and for me experientially, I'm getting chills saying this. When I tap into that void, involved in it is this deep, almost inexplicable sense of sacredness, of divinity, of timelessness. There's no past and no future. And without a past or future, interestingly, there's also no present moment. You see, even time is completely fabricated. Because for there to be a present moment, we need a past and a future for it to be relative to. So when we recognize I've never actually been to the past and I will never, ever be in the future. I'll always be right here. So when we recognize past and future are fabricated, empty concepts, actually the present moment must also be an empty, fabricated concept. Timeless. We are that. We are that. All of us together. And I'm getting chills. This is so deep. It's this is my life's purpose. That the remembrance. Like my whole body is tingling right now saying this. Is so meaningful to me. The remembrance of what we are. The remembrance of what we are. Not me, not you, not Christ. Us. Creation. Walking this path together for eternity. Not even eternity. Again, it's timeless. A place beyond time. That's where we are right now. When we're not creating concepts. And these are views, again, that we can pick up and put down. And there's such a beauty in being able to try on this view. And what is the impact? How much love gets through? Because emptiness, it's not this empty, cold place. It actually is an avenue to a deep experience of freedom. And with that freedom, love, compassion, the desire to serve, to alleviate the pain of those who are hurting, including us. And it's innate when we're free. When I'm free, what do I want? It's when I'm really deeply free, I don't want the yachts and strippers and crazy adventures. Like, sure, we can, but what I want is to serve. Yeah. Recognizing there's no scarcity here. Forever. Again, a place beyond time. At that point, what leads to the deepest fulfillment is service. Always. And actually, the action of being of service to something bigger than ourselves, whether that be another person, a group of people, to God, that way of living, of selfless service, actually starts to loosen the perception and experience of the ego. Because the more we act in service to just me, the more the mind is constructing this story where there is a real me. And when I act in service to something bigger, that construction of a separate solid self starts to fall away. And that's when we touch into real deep freedom, where I don't even need like this huge, beautiful myth of my life. I don't need the excess. I have enough because I am everything and nothing simultaneously. In the words of Nisargadatta Maharaj, wisdom is knowing that I'm everything, or I think it's wisdom is knowing that I'm nothing. Love is knowing that I'm everything. Between the two, my life flows. And this is where we're touching back into the deepest truths possible, which are paradoxical innately. The logical mind can't grasp it. And that's where the freedom is.
Yeah, freedom is found in the paradox. Just to double click on something you said, we can build worlds. We already are. Everybody already is.
Always.
And so every single thing anybody is moving through in life, you are already creating that at a profound level. And I was talking a little bit about this yesterday. It's like, this is actually one of Bashar's teachings. Shout out Bashar.
Shout out.
I fucking love Bashar, man. He talks about how the universe is unconditionally supportive. God, universe, source, creator, infinite, architect. I don't care what you use. We're all using language for the same thing, right? And our lives are representations of our belief systems that are perpetuated and manifested because we have a creator that loves us so much. It's going to continue to reflect and mirror back our own belief systems to self, so we can continue to teach ourselves about ourselves. And so we're already creating worlds, every single one of us. And reality is a construction of our collective belief systems. And so I have this wild theory that if all of us woke up tomorrow and chose to view the world differently, overnight we'd be living in a radically different world. This is Terence McKenna's novelty theory, or 0 point something, where he said that, and it's interesting because we're kind of in it now. He says that the way that consciousness continues to know itself is through novelty. And this is why the universe is ever expanding and God is creating more and more and more, because in the more that it or he or she or whatever you want to call it, again, continues to create, it knows itself at a deeper level. And so Terence McKenna theorized that Novelty theory means that we're going to hit a point in the world where there's so much novelty and things are speeding up so quick that it feels like time does this. And then literally all of us wake up one day and we're in a radically new reality and world. And that we remember everything as it was, but as if it was a dream.
Whoa.
Like I can touch it because I was in it yesterday. And think about the time now, man.
Yeah.
The craziness with astrology, the 2027 predictions from people like Bashar and Richard Rudd and the Hopi prophecy, the Red Nation, the Zulu, the Aborigines, the Lakota. There's so much pointing to this specific period of time. And I have a gnosis in me that says that coming into the 2030s, we can't even fathom what the world's going to look like.
Dude, yes.
We cannot even fathom, like the dragonfly. So Richard Rudd's been prophesying for 2.5, 3 decades now, that in 2027, the human genome is going to go from a double helix to a triple helix structure.
What does that mean?
So if everything is light manifests into matter.
That's what the Tibetans say, that even matter is actually just frozen light.
And if our DNA holds information, if our DNA goes from double to a triple helix structure, then we're quite literally overnight going to be able to hold 150% more information. If information is light, then we become greater light beings. I don't think we can fathom what that means, dude.
Not in this form.
Not in this form. And he has assigned the 55th gene key, which is the gene key of the dragonfly, to 2027, because just like a dragonfly, it spends most of its life in water, looking nothing like this aerial badass. You know, as far as I'm aware, dragonflies have the most complex flight system known to man. They have 100%. They have something like 100% kill rate when they go for a target because they're so complex with the way they can navigate and fly.
Whoa.
They're the most deadly predator on the planet.
Huh.
And there's not a human being that can look at its manifestation in the water and say, oh, I know what that thing's going to be. Right. The most vibrant, bright, complex flight system in the world that just is just beautiful. And even when you're with it, dude, it feels alien.
I was going to say the energy a dragonfly gives off, you're like, whoa, what is this thing?
And so we have no idea what the world's coming to. And I think that these concepts and these spiritual teachings and psychedelics and all these prophecy, everything is coming alive in this period of time because it is Gaia, it is Mother Nature, it is as the Gaia Sophia, as she used to be called. I can't think of the spiritual tradition that.
Gaia Sophia, is that the wisdom of Earth?
Yeah, but it was anyways, for topic for another day. She is manifesting these things to mirror our own evolution back to us. And so from a lot of people I talk to, a lot of people feel that the world is shifting. They just can't put words to it.
Yeah.
They understand the chase of money and the materialism and the matrix job and the slaving away and is starting to feel weird in the body, but they can't wrap their mind around it and they can't really articulate what the heart is wanting to express. It's because we're leaving the materialistic realm. Ooh. And we're stepping into the understanding that everything has been spiritual from the beginning. Right. And it's getting so loud because it's asking us to really start to go in and start to analyze and contemplate the inner workings of our worlds. Yeah. In the distraction and the suppressive and the numbing mechanisms and the busyness, it's all taking us away from the thing we need to do most, which is find stillness.
Bro, my bread and butter. Now you're speaking my language. These truths, they seem to already be known. They're already present, actually. The key is actually slowing down the turbidity of the mind. Like I love the image of a glass full of water and some like dirt in the water, and you swirl it up and you can't see through the glass, just like we can't see reality clearly. And then you leave a glass on a table for a day or two and all the dirt settles to the bottom and it's crystal clear. Yeah. And that's the mind. And that's why meditation has been used, I mean, for thousands of years. This is the archetype of Shiva, the grounded stillness. Shiva sits in meditation while Shakti dances. And it's also related to the primordial masculine as far as holding space, sitting with what is, learning how to develop a skillful relationship to that. And I think the first step is becoming aware of what's here. Then I can start to build a relationship to it. But most people are so caught up in this speed of culture, which is actually influenced, again, by the desire to escape. to escape pain, to find something to fix it, instead of actually learning how to be with it. Because again, the way out is through. And the only way to fix it is to be with it.
Yeah. And there's this thing about people are running from the discomfort of it, right? And I like to give people this visual of imagine anytime we're growing, evolving, or healing, we have to come up to the edges of the barriers of everything we've known. And so that barrier, when we start confronting it, that's the discomfort people feel that they then distract, suppress, and numb away. But if we are willing to be with it, then we get to break through that barrier that was either self-imposed or created by Bruce Lipton talks about this a lot in his work, that we're basically in hypnosis for the first 7 years of our life. This is where all of our programs are installed. How we're supposed to feel, how we're supposed to process, how we're supposed to love, how we're supposed to communicate, how we're supposed to feel through traumatic and wounding situations. The second 7 years of our life, we're going out and testing it in the world. And this is why you see so many bullies between the ages of 7 and 14.
Interesting.
Right? As they're testing the things that were programmed into them in those first 7 years. And then the last 7 years, from 14 to 21, is when we're ingraining those patterns and beliefs into our mind that then create the subset or the structure of how most people live out the rest of their lives. And so the reason that psychedelics are powerful is they start to deconstruct these programmings, and it becomes terrifying for people because who am I outside of the guise of who I've been told I am?
Becomes terrifying for the ego.
Yes.
Which is not what we are.
Yeah.
It's an illusion.
But the heart knows, man. And
exactly.
To touch on some on truth, going back to the truth, we're coming back around, is all the heart knows is truth. That's all it knows. And when we create stillness, when we do practices like journaling, when we learn from a Buddhist perspective how to be the observer, a witness to our experience, we start to get more in tune with that ping that is our guiding force, that is leading us to where we were always meant to go. Yeah. We just got to quiet the busyness. We got to recognize the programs. We got to become more aware of the fact that we are suppressing, distracting, and numbing ourselves from the very thing that's leading us towards our evolution, because that's where everybody's freedom lies.
Yeah. And the treasures that we seek is, like, again, it's through the deep, dark, scary things. That's how we get there. And we can use actually truth and love, I found synonymously, where I think Nagarjuna, one of the Buddha's disciples, I mean, long after the Buddha, but one of the most notable Buddhist scholars, I want to say like 6th century, that could be way off, but Nagarjuna, he said that peace is the ultimate reality. Peace. And I would say peace, truth, love. Everything starts to blend together when the mind becomes very still. Peace, truth, and love. It all blends together. When I'm not getting caught up in the web of stories of me versus you, of, big scary death, the story that the world is ending. And I want to touch on this notion of current events. And I think anyone who's alive can just recognize the world is changing rapidly, for better as well as for worse. And I think that the duality of light and dark are arising together in a heightened intensity in both poles. And it makes me think of this notion of, in the Christian tradition, the rapture, actually, where God saves those who are chosen, those who are deserving of the kingdom of heaven, and the rest are unfortunately forced to live in hell on earth. And I think that can be interpreted, that myth, that story can be interpreted in many ways. One fun way that I like to interpret the myth of the rapture is that we are always actively choosing our path. And I think especially since COVID, you can see those that have chosen to feed fear more and more, and those that have chosen to feed love, acceptance, allowance of creation, of self, of God. And I think those polarities are going to keep heightening, recognizing, for me, heaven on earth is not a place we go when we die. Heaven on earth is a place in our minds that becomes projected onto our reality. And Thich Nhat Hanh, Buddhist teacher from Vietnam, he has this beautiful image, which is that the mind is a garden. And we all already have the seeds of fear, hate, delusion, separation, just like we have the seeds of love, connection, meaningfulness, acceptance. We all have all these seeds. So we use awareness as a watering pail, often unconsciously, where I'm watering either the seeds of fear, hate, separation, or I'm watering love, acceptance, allowance through my awareness. So this begs the question, where is your mind?
Mm-hmm.
Always, because you are watering a seed, and no matter what you water, that is going to grow into a bigger part of your experience. So if we water the seeds of love, meaningfulness, the beautiful qualities of heart and mind, then that's going to become a real lived experience. Whereas if I unconsciously choose to feed, again, hate, ignorance, all the bad shit you probably don't want to cultivate in your garden, if you water those things, they're going to grow. And in that sense, the mind is very passive, but we can direct that stream of life force and that creative energy into anything that we want. So what world are we constructing in these biblical prophetic times?
Yeah.
Where are we going? What is the path that we're on? Ask that question and be honest. Be honest. And that's the first step. Even if you recognize, damn, I've been feeding this story that I'm a failure. I've been feeding this story that the New World Order is taking over and that's going to lead to hell on earth. Be careful. Be careful with these stories.
They're creating more of the thing that would manifest that.
Exactly.
Gary Vee said this in a post the other day. I fuck with Gary Vee so hard.
Who's Gary Vee?
Oh, bro, Gary Vaynerchuk.
Is this a basketball coach?
No.
Okay.
Gary Vee, yeah. I got to share some of his stuff.
Okay,
He's a
cool.
goat. He's been doing this game for decades,
Okay.
man. And people like to blame the algorithm. The algorithm is you.
Ooh.
So if anybody logs into the social media, anyone log into, if you're confused about your beliefs of the world, the frequency that you're carrying, log into your Instagram and scroll for 5 minutes. Tell me what you see.
Bro, I've been
Do you
saying.
see fear? Do you see divisiveness? If you're following political stuff, you are actually creating more of the divisiveness that you're then condemning the other side for. If you see things of war, then you are feeding into the anger and frustration narratives that actually perpetuate war, right? Our algorithms are just a reflection of self.
Dude, totally.
And so it's like, if there's any confusion of the world that you are creating for yourself, look at the choices that you're making. Look at what you choose to follow and feed into.
Totally.
And so there's so much about anything that I feel, I'm creating more of that in the world.
Yeah.
So when I get angry about they did this, I'm actually creating more of the thing that I'm trying to blasphemize them for. It all comes back to self, man. It all comes back to taking radical and complete and total ownership and responsibility for every single thing happening in my life. That anything that triggers me has nothing to do with that thing.
Boom.
They are my biggest teacher, reflecting to me where I am not free. Right?
Yeah.
Especially in relationship and friendships. It's like anybody that is close to you that triggers you is your greatest teacher, because they're just reflecting back where you are not free.
Totally.
Which means you are giving your power away to something or someone outside of yourself. And from that perspective, if I'm giving my power away, what does that paradigm want? They want us in fear. They want us in hell. And so every bit of me that I'm giving my power away, I'm creating my own hell.
Yeah.
And so it's taking radical ownership and responsibility, understanding that I'm creating this for myself so I can also create my heaven.
In a dualistic sense.
Yes.
Wow. And in a sense, you could say we can't be found, we can't be free, enlightened, if we're not first bound, if we're not first chained to our reality. We need to know both in the experience of duality. Because again, what exists beyond duality? Void. Not even nothingness.
Which is why duality was created in the first place.
To balance out the void.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's all perfect harmony, perfect balance.
And so it's not denying duality. This is what I don't love totally about a lot of the non-dual teachings is, sure, I can get myself through those practices to a state of realizing that non-duality exists, but there's a lot of joy and fun and pleasure to be had in duality. And so it's about holding the framing that I understand that everything is a fractal emanation of the one infinite consciousness.
Yeah.
And I'm a fractal of that one infinite consciousness because it created itself to experience the pleasures that life has to offer. Both can be true.
And I want to touch on this notion of, the garden of the mind, and that our experience is a product of what we feed. And so we were speaking to just this really understanding that if you feed fear, if you put your awareness on it, it's going to grow more fear. But I want to just have a full spectrum just conversation about that, because I also have this part of me that is like, if we do not pay attention to the evil motherfuckers that are pulling the strings right now, if we do not say that's not cool with me, if we just sit in compliance, what's going to happen? And then can I open to really the myth that we're living right now, the play of creation? And can I recognize it's not okay with me that motherfuckers are trying to make humanity infertile, that motherfuckers are trying to just pull so much bullshit, the greedy demons at the top. Those people, should I just transcend that? And that's an open question I have. I don't know.
So it's less, even in the delivery, do you feel the frustration, the underpinning anger? It's like,
ooh, yeah.
Feeding into them creates more of what you're just feeling, which is not a state of being I know you want to be in.
Yeah.
And so them doing even that by you wanting to call them out is actually creating more of what they want to create in the first place.
Totally.
And so the in my opinion, it's about giving no attention to that, and we just create the new world. If I give I don't follow any of that. I don't give into the fear of any of that. And I focus all of my heart, my attention, my mind, my energy on finding the people that also want to see the world in a different way. And we create the new world.
Yeah.
Right. We create the new systems. We bring back local agriculture. We lean hard into new currency models like crypto. Mm-hmm. It's like I got a download in ayahuasca before I knew anything about any of the cryptocurrencies, and 3 nights and 3 ceremonies in a row, the frequency of Bitcoin came to me, and I knew nothing about it at that point. And this isn't a conversation on Bitcoin, but it's like, why is this coming to me in ayahuasca? And the download was like, source doesn't let anything die unless something's already born in its place. And so we can fear where the current system is going, or recognizing that is just a mirror for also the other end of the polarity, which means a new world is also being built. Yeah. I want to be part of that. I want to feed my energy and attention into that, because if feeding into the fear of the new world order and you will own nothing and be happy, then I'm actually closing my heart off to love, which is part of creating that manifestation of the world. And I'm feeding and stepping into the thing I'm trying to escape.
And I thank you for saying that, because I think it's completely true. Mm-hmm. Again, this world is not as solid as we take it, and it manifests in interesting ways. The Lord works in interesting ways. Mm-hmm. And when we lean more into love, we might be surprised about what manifests, quote unquote, externally. And like you said, when you're like, just focus on love, focus on the good, focus on building the new world, it makes me think that the revolution will not be televised.
It's not. It's already happening.
What? They're feeding you fear. They're feeding you separation. They're feeding you, be afraid. Look at everyone else who's doing it wrong. Point the finger at your neighbor and say they're evil. Fear, fear, fear. Evil, evil, evil. And it's just like, bro, what if like I've tapped into the love of creation? And you said something interesting, which is like, they want you to own nothing and be happy with it. And it makes me think, you know who owned nothing and was happy with it? I don't know, this dude, Christ, the Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama, these, prolific beings owned nothing. And what do you think the quality of their experience was? And maybe, in order to ascend out of the material plane, and I'm just riffing right now, that means letting go of everything. And as Christ said, it's easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. Because it's hard for those with everything materially to let go of the material world and trust that there's something better, which is not having everything that you want materially. It's actually never wanting it in the first place. Turn towards God so directly that you are blinded by that light. And then who cares what the fuck is happening?
Yeah, man. This is one of the things that slapped me about the gene keys. I've been getting deep into the gene keys lately. And my evolution gene key, my Siddhi, is superabundance. And so the materialistic part of me is like, oh, I'm going to have all the money. I'm going to have all the things, right? And then you start reading into the definition and it says superabundance is needing nothing at all.
Banger.
And it's like,
heat.
Can
we let that go?
It's getting to that place where it's like, I'm so resolute in just understanding that this moment is a miracle and that's all I ever need to tune into, that I don't need anything else.
Money.
The fact that I am aware and conscious of this experience is the end goal in itself. Bro. Because the second I attach to anything outside of that, I've created the opening for me to live a potential hell by creating that attachments.
Dude, and this is where I think, again, the Lord works in mysterious ways. I think that the rise of the perception of darkness is actually forcing people to find that light, that innate peace already here in the quote unquote end of times, can we find the light of source, the peace, the knowings that are already here?
Yeah.
And it's like the darkness is forcing us to find it. And it's like with the end of days comes, guess what? The resurrection. The resurrection of not just Christ as one being. And this is spoken about in Buddhism and Christianity. It will be a community. It will be a group of people. And there's certain models that say only 10% of a culture, of a civilization, needs to make a pragmatic shift for the entire culture to adopt it. And what if, again, psychedelics, the awakening, things like meditation, breath work are part of that 10% that are going to, again, I'm getting chills, the angels leading the way for the collective to usher into something, I would say, so beautiful we can't grasp it, actually.
And is with everything you just said, is it an accident that we just entered the age of Aquarius, which is about community, which is about co-creation, which is about decentralization?
Dude,
it's I believe so profoundly that, again, the paradox, like this is a free will and a divine will universe, that the path has already been laid, but we get to choose how to walk it.
I've said that for a minute, and I just want to say this conversation is so fire. Like this might be made illegal. This might be made illegal if motherfuckers catch a whiff of this. And say what you just said again, because something else popped in my head.
Yeah, the paradox of like this is a divine will and a free will universe, that the path has been laid, but we get to choose how to walk it.
And that's something that I've found to be true in my life for quite a while, actually, which is like from two perspectives, again, paradoxical truths are actually deeply true, which is in this moment, I have ultimate free will. I could get up and leave and go to Mexico right now. I could quit my job. I could go live in a cave. I could go become an evil pirate on Wall Street. I could do anything. But in hindsight, when I look at my life, I see sort of the effects of what I would call karma. And when I say karma, I mean cause and effect. Based on the person I was conditioned into, based on my experiences, I had to make certain choices at certain times. In hindsight, I see it all as predetermined. I had no choice. But looking to the future, I have infinite choice. Yeah. How can it be both? The logical mind is twitching, not knowing what to do. And this is where we need to be comfortable letting go of that logical mind, sinking into the wisdom of the heart, into the deepest knowings, where actually the wisdom of the heart is totally cool with paradox, because those are the deepest truths.
That's all it knows.
It's right. And it reminds me of the Zen koan practice. So in Zen traditions, for people who don't know, they use these basically what are called koans, these riddles that are basically just an attempt to kind of like lock up the mind. Like, what is the sound of one hand clapping? What did your face look like before your parents were born? And basically the whole idea is for you to be like, what the fuck? What kind of answer are you looking for? And the whole goal is actually to lock up the logical mind to a degree where it just falls away. And you act from that pure spontaneity, which, again, because Zen is so aligned with Taoism. Taoism is all about just being in line with the Tao, with the way that things are. Just be spontaneous. That's the most effective way to just live optimally and be in harmony. Just flow. And what's interesting is I've asked this question because I really vibe with Taoism. Just flow, just open, be authentic. What does that mean right now in these very interesting times? And we were talking before about this notion of spiritual fuckboy. What does that mean? What does that authenticity mean? And the name spiritual fuckboy is obviously very jarring. It doesn't fit the normative conceptual paradigm of what spirituality looks like. And that is the teaching. This is not just a random goofy name. This is a teaching to understand where are we creating the separation between the sacred and the profane. Where am I saying that's sacred, that's spirit, but this over here, this is not spirit? And can we recognize that this is a construction, just like everything else in experience? This is a construct. And what happens when we dissolve that boundary? Wait, could it all be an expression of spirit, of God, of cosmos, of divinity? And what happens then to our ability to allow ourselves, to give ourselves permission to be us, to give ourselves permission to align with the Tao, to not get stuck up in the heady conditioning of the way that we think things should be, the way that I think I should act. Open up to who we are, get out of our own way, to let, again, something so much bigger than ourselves pull the strings. And I think when we can access really our own unique personal desires and step out of our own way, we can ask the question, whose desires are these? Whose desires have they been the whole time? And actually, that is what I would call God, creation, divinity, spirit flowing through you, trying to pull you to your highest timeline. And I don't mean that in a personal sense. I can mean that in a collective sense. When we get out of our own way and act from that place of the heart, and again, I'm getting chills saying this, that is how spirit moves through us and starts to just by default construct heaven. When I'm not stuck in this conceptual, just contracted state of being that is like, oh, there's a little me. And you can feel it in your body when I'm identifying with little me, aka the ego. It feels tight. It feels actually inherently unstable. And what's interesting about that is the ego, in a deep, deep way, already knows that it's kind of made up. And it's grasping for anything to prove that it's real. It's the money. It's the chicks. Look how powerful I am. It's anything to make it seem real. And it already knows that it's not. But the problem is when we identify with that solid separate self. Because the problem's not the ego. Like, people who see me, they're like, wait, does this dude know what he's talking about? Like, where's he coming from? Because I have a very pronounced personality. And the reason is because I've been blessed enough to have directly seen through the fabrication, the construction of what I thought that I was. And at that point, let it rip. I know who I am, and I know it's formless. And I trust that. And I trust that to lead me to where this form, this myth, this story is meant to go. And actually to create the world that creation wants to create. It's not up to me. And I know what I am. And in a big way, I'm not even afraid of death. Because the death of what? Who is dying? When I see that this ego is a story. What I am is, again, everything in creation beyond that. Knowing that I'm love is, or what the fuck did Nisargadatta say? Dwelling in love, I know that I'm nothing. No, I'm fucking it up. Nisargadatta Maharaj, the quote was, knowing that I'm... Bro, can we edit this out? I don't know what the fuck. I'm like blanking on it. Hold up. Give me a sec. Knowing that I'm everything. Wait, do you remember what I said? Bro, fuck. Now I lost the thread. Knowing that I'm everything. I kind of want to look it up. No, let's fuck it. Let's just run it. Actually, you can include that if you want. It's part of the process. We're flowing, we're riffing, we're out here. I may or may not have consumed some of Enthios' delicious substances before snowboarding today.
Sacraments, not substances.
Sacraments. Gotcha.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I just want to say that this conversation, everything that I've been saying right now has been so deeply meaningful, and that it's so dope to talk to you about this shit, because I think that this, again, is getting out of our own way to let, what would I call it? Move through us, to speak through us, to be channeled. And again, I view that as what we've always been. God, spirit, the formless. That's what we are when we're not, again, contracting the psyche into these limiting models. And when we can get out of our own way, we recognize everything I've always been, everything I've always said has been an expression of source. And when we recognize that, and we recognize that what I am is not finite, how do I act? How do I behave? How do I engage with the world? And like I said before, this recognition of the formless is actually an avenue to love. It's an avenue to clarity on the state of being, on the state of reality. And that state of reality and existence is actually love. And this is not just spoken about in esoteric senses, but it's actually something that we can taste through deep states of meditation. And I talk about this a lot, and I don't know if people vibe with it necessarily, but I think it's incredibly interesting and profound, which is these states that are called the jhanas. Are you familiar with these states? So there's often split into two models, two types of meditation. One being vipassana, which the intention is insight. I'm gaining insight into reality. The other one is samatha, which is cultivation of calm, cultivation of stillness of mind. And when we focus on the cultivation of calm in meditation, the mind just starts to gradually fabricate less. And at first we see all the stories start to fade, all the thoughts start to fade. And as the mind gets more and more calm, we actually experience deep, profound states of love, of peace. As the mind becomes more still, even the sensation of a body starts to fade. The sensation of separation between self and world starts to fade, and we enter into formless states. Simply when the mind is calm. So we see that when the mind, again, slows down, when it becomes very still, the active, really, verb of fabrication starts to lessen. The grip of the push and pull of reality starts to loosen. And you start to get in direct contact with the fabric of existence, which is love, peace, formlessness. And this is an experience that literally anybody can have, and that is accessible to everybody. They're called the jhanas, Jhana. And through the cultivation of calm, through samatha meditation, and for me, it's just following the breath or loving kindness meditation. Come back to the breath over and over again, and the mind becomes very still. And for me, I feel it all over my body. I feel this sensation. First, it's like a charge, like it's glowing, and it gets more refined into that deep sense of peace, actually bliss, where your body, and this is not just a conceptual experience, your physical body is literally glowing with bliss, with peace. How? Just by being really deeply calm and being with experience as it is. And this not only informs us about the nature of existence, which is that love, peace, bliss are much more primal realities, much more primary realities than being caught up in the stories. But it also gives us access to this deep, deep nourishment, where what happens to my pursuit of sense pleasures? What happens to my pursuit of material things when I can sit in meditation and taste a bliss that you cannot access? A bliss so potent, so strong, so uniform over your whole body, and you can just sustain it. What happens to my pursuit of material things when I can sustain bliss through sitting and by just calming my mind? And this is something that I think is, again, so profound that actually it seems like not a lot of people know about. And I will say I've been meditating daily for like 5+ years at this point, and I can access the first 2 jhanas. There's 8 jhanas. The first are called the form jhanas. The second 4, the last 4 are called the formless. And I can access the first 2 or 3 jhanas right now, just meditating for 5 years. And I can access through, obviously it takes practice, but like bliss on demand. And it's hard to sustain, because you can't attain that bliss by holding on. You can only attain it by letting go. And you interestingly can't try to let go. You just let go. And that's how we access these deeply nourishing states. And I'm so curious, again, what's going to happen in these prophetic times. What are we going to recognize in these prophetic times? What sort of abilities are we going to remember? And how much has technology actually separated us from our innate capabilities? Things like the cities that they talk about in Eastern traditions, telepathy, telekinesis, transcending time and space. Is that something we have access to?
Are you familiar with the yugas?
Of course, yeah.
So one of the books I read, I think it was called The Yugas. There's a few on it, but they posited a really interesting perspective of the yuga cycles, and that all technologies that we see in the age of materialism are available and accessible to us in all ages throughout all of the yuga cycles, but the age represents how that technology is manifest. So we need phones right now because the innate ability we have for telekinesis and long distance communication has been taken away because we're in the age, we're coming, actually, based on many people, they think 2025 ended the Kali Yuga.
No way.
They think we just, in March of 2025, we ended the Kali Yuga, and we're now entering the age of Dwapara Yuga, which is all based on energy. Is there an accident? We're on this like energy crisis, zero point energy might be here, potential breakthroughs on cold fusion. A lot of the channelers thinking that we're going to be introduced to ETs and extraterrestrials inside the next few years that have the technology of infinite energy. And so it's like all of the yugas represent that we have access to all of these technologies at all times. And like, you know, then you go to Treta Yuga, which is the age of thought. And then you go into Sati Yuga, the golden age, which is the age of consciousness. And so in the age of consciousness, with our minds are powerful enough to create atomic energy. But right now we need a bomb. And so it's just representations that these things are available. And that's why, you know, like the telepathy tapes.
Yeah.
These kids, like one of the most fascinating things about all of the telepathy tape thing is the hill.
Totally.
thousands of these children meet in this place within their mind where they have friends and they communicate and they have adventures and they play games. And it's like, during her first few episodes, she met with a dozen different kids that talked about the same place that don't even know each other. And they have no different countries and different origins. And it's like, these things are coming back online. Channelers, dude. 2 years ago, I never would have believed you. Now working with channelers have changed my life. Following Bashar's 5-step principle has changed my life, right? Even me, to say very publicly for the first time, I've had my own experience lately with like mantis beings coming to me and opening my channel and directing me and communicating. It happened in a medicine ceremony first. And they're like, what you're experiencing is as your frequency increases, you're able to communicate with other high frequency beings. And so that's what people are experiencing with telekinesis and channeling, opening, and getting these divine insights, is we are being called into higher frequentic states as a population. We're coming out of the third density, as the law of one would call it, right, into a fourth density planet, which is of heart and wisdom. And as we continue to move up the chakra centers, our gifts are going to be coming online, because all of us, every single one of us is inherently gifted. Amen. Every single one of us.
Dude, I've had this image. I was actually just thinking about this today. It's like all of the sort of prophetic stories that we see in pop culture, like X-Men, for instance. What if that was actually like a prediction? Something in the human psyche actually recognizes there will be a time when we tap into the our gifts in such a deep level that it is literally superhuman.
We are. I had this fascinating thought. I smoked the joint a couple weeks ago, and I love getting caught in these high thoughts and just like trying to think differently, right? And I started thinking about let's bring it back to Hermeticism, because why not? As above, so below, the principle of correspondence. It's one of those things where it's like we either believe that's true or it's not.
That what? As above, so below? As
above, so below. As within, so without. So I believe that it's true. And so if everything is a representation of everything at its mere fractal, and you read a lot of these different prophecy and spiritual text, again, about how important the earth realm is, right? That it's one of the most one of the most important schools throughout the universe for growth and integrating karma and understanding the whole nature of existence. Maybe it's important because what the earth represents is the potential for life in different forms in all of the universe. And so it's like, let's use Lord of the Rings, the Ents, the tree people. We have trees in this planet and this is the form they're in, but maybe there's a anthropomorphized humanoid version of a tree species in the universe somewhere. And we could say that about every single entity, every bacteria, every cell. So there's trillions of species and entities on this planet, just as there's trillions of stars. And so why wouldn't the earth mimic everything that is potentiation out in the universe? So when we watch Star Trek or Lord of the Rings or the X-Men, I do believe that somewhere out in this infinite universe that is playing out.
Totally.
And we're just attuning from our creative life force. Creativity is only birthed from the divine creation. If the divine creates everything, then that has to be created somewhere.
Exactly.
We're just attuning to that frequency and using it to play with our imagination in this specific version of life.
Totally.
And just looking at life through the lens of that possibility, it's like, who gives a fuck if it's true?
Yeah.
It's a lot more fun. It's a lot more free,
baby. That's what I'm talking about.
And it brings the ability to let the mystery and miracle of life unfold as it needs to, because that perspective has opened up my mind to think anything is possible.
Exactly.
And if I think anything is possible out there, then anything is possible for me.
Yeah.
And if anything is possible for me and I run into those things that tell me it's not, then it's giving me a really beautiful direct outlet to show me where my limiting belief systems are.
Totally.
And from that place, I can continue to become more and more free by tuning into maybe the X-Men are real.
Yeah. Right.
Maybe all this is real. Maybe my channel's open. Maybe I'm making this up. I don't know. But it's sure a hell of a lot funner to believe in it all.
Exactly, bro. Then this is what I'm talking about. This actually is the expansion into deeper freedom, awakening spiritual truth, not pushing away fantasy, recognizing the world we're living in is a fantasy. It always has been.
Yeah.
And at that point, can we construct something that is just better, more beautiful, more fun, more expansive? Because so many people get caught up in, unconsciously, we're being spoon-fed certain worldviews. The conditioning of what I would call reductionism, Scientism and materialism. Reductionism means I'm taking the infinite void, the infinite potential of reality, and I'm trying to reduce it to just a small little fragment. I'm saying this is what's real, this isn't. So that's reductionism. Scientism is saying that what is really true is what science can prove, which I'm like, bro, for real? You think we are the pinnacle of consciousness? You think we figured it out? That's so, like, it's such a naive human belief.
Science is just trying to explain spirituality, bro.
And it's like, science is useful for, let's just say crop yields, building a house, like for, healing the human body in some ways. I think, again, we have innate healing abilities, but it's limited and it's not objectively the state of reality. So scientism is, again, a belief system. It's not, just saying science is dope. Science is dope. It's given us a lot, but it's not the ultimate state of reality. Let's say that. And then materialism. I say matter is real and imagination is not, which is silly when we just start to examine that claim, because our notion of reality is an imagined experience. It's actually, it's an imagined experience that we say, this story is actually not a story. It's actually real. It's objectively real. Not noticing that that's actually a story, claiming that this isn't a story, still a story. And that's the thing. What happens then? How can we lean into more beautiful, poetic, expansive, and deeply meaningful stories? And the freedom is to not cling to any of them. Like you said, maybe it's just in my mind. Maybe it's real. And actually, maybe it's both. And simultaneously sort of neither. And that's where the freedom is not clinging to any of it. Yeah. I can try on worldviews like I try on clothes. And I can change them as many times as I want. And that's the freedom, baby.
It's just getting used to being the witness to your experience of life and not attaching meaning to any of it. Because it's like the more I can be witness to what's happening from that perspective of detachment, it's more fun. Even from the perspective when it's really fucking hard. I understand that this is only coming up for me to show me a new experience of life I've not met yet.
Yeah.
Even that can be fun. Dude. Right? And it's like one of the things of getting so comfortable. I guide people through this practice called the outing, where you sit down, you set a timer for 30 minutes, and you write every single way in undeniable detail the ways you numb, suppress, and distract yourself. Whoa. So that when it shows up in your life, you cannot run from it.
Damn.
Right?
I love that.
And you get so undeniably detailed. So it's like, I'll use an example. My relationship with cannabis has been sacred and ceremonial, and I've used it to distract, numb, and suppress.
Amen, brother.
And by clearly articulating what those two are, right? Like, I know that I'm using cannabis intentionally if it's one of the 4 S's: socially, sacred, sex, and Sundays. I lead men through this cannabis for creativity exercise 2 times a month, right? Where we use this plant. It's like cannabis is just showing us what has our power. And so when I smoke and I eat food, it's showing me that my relationship to food has my power. When I smoke and I get lazy, my lack of devotion and dedication in life is what has my power. Yeah. When I smoke and get anxious or paranoid, my paranoia or anxiety that's already there underneath the surface that I'm not looking at is the thing that has my power. And when we can flush that out, then our creative portion of ourselves come through. And so it's going through and outing all of the ways I watch too much TV. I drown myself in business at work. I look at pornography. I go drinking. I do drugs. I lean on pharmaceuticals. Call yourself out for all of the ways that you numb, distract, and suppress from life. And when you see that part of yourself come up, then go take that into the stillness practice and learn to befriend that discomfort. Because this goes back to that freedom that we're talking about, where everything becomes an experience that we're welcoming rather than trying to run away from part of these experiences. Yeah. And so even when it's discomforting, I'm just a witness to this. Boom. This is just a part of myself feeling what it is. What can I learn and bring curiosity into that part of myself? And then it's like, then you really have no obstacles anymore.
Totally.
You're letting life unfold in the way that it was meant to from an active place of choosing how I relate to that unfolding. And I think this is where people are coming into. So many people are unhappy at their jobs and realizing this isn't the thing. And, you know, art is in heart for a reason. We all have this expression that wants to pour through us. And there's this thing of authenticity, you know, being the highest frequency that we can carry. I have this thing I teach that we have the avatar and we have the soul. And in that gap is the lies and distortions people live in.
Ooh,
And
let's
the
go.
reason that authenticity is so attractive is because authenticity is closing that gap between what your avatar is expressing and what your soul came here to express. And that when we start to live in the versions of lie and do things for other people, we are creating separation between our avatar and soul. And so this is why authenticity is so attractive, is when we close that gap, because you are a fractal of the infinite consciousness. You are a fractal of God. You're individuated, to use Carl Jung's terms. There's no one that will ever be like you.
Yeah.
And so your authentic expression is so magnetizing because every other soul is like, wow, I get to see God through that person because you're individualized in your expression. That is our path here. And the only way to get there is by doing a lot of the things that we've talked about.
Bro, amen. Bro, give me some nuts. That was fire right there. And like, so it makes me think, I believe it was Carl Jung who said also that your own personal individuation is actually the individuation of the angels, of the daimon. And that's the thing, when we really can accept ourselves and our desires and open to it and be authentic with what we are, the separation between our avatar, between ego and soul, merges into one thing, and you can't tell the difference. Why? Because it's always been identical. When I'm not pushing away desires, when I'm not fragmenting my being by keeping what I want at arm's length. And this is also, it leans into this notion of spiritual fuckboy. And obviously the name is a joke, but it's leaning into desire, the desire to express. And I would never have in my life categorized myself as a fuckboy. It's never been me. My history is like, let's just say, just to keep it short, lots of trauma with the feminine. I hated myself. I didn't think girls liked me. And people see like this pretty face and they're like, he's had it easy his whole life. Dude, I couldn't talk to girls until like literally, I would say the end of undergrad. I was like afraid of them and I couldn't tell people, and people didn't get it because they're like, dude, you're so like, what are you doing? And I'm like, because I had so much trauma from the feminine early in my life. And I won't get into the specifics right now, but leaning into my desires to feel like I'm enough, because I spent so much of my life knowing that I wasn't. That was my experience. That was really me. And now I'm leaning into this person, which is like, wait, people like me? Chicks are into me. And it seems silly for me to say from the outside looking in, but for me, from the inside speaking out, it was my real experience. And now I'm in this place of ownership, of letting those desires flow and letting myself express. Spiritual fuckboy's hilarious, and I'll own that till I die.
And it's one of those things, man. Do you want your message to be hilarious?
So that's the thing. I think, can it be both? Can it be deep and funny? And so that's the thing with spiritual fuckboy too. It's sort of like the humor of it, the what? It kind of breaks the tension as we talk about these. I mean, this conversation period has been about as deep as we can get. Yeah. and coherent.
Yeah. And it's interesting too, even when I posited that question to you when we were having coffee earlier, I think even my perspective of the name spiritual fuckboy comes from my own, same thing, dude. I was on Viagra from 19 to 31 years old because I had such bad social and sexual anxiety. I had such bad anxiety, like dating. I was on steroids from 16 to 28. You throw in hormone issues on top of all that, right? And so in my prime, I couldn't even have a sexual experience without outsourcing my power and pleasure to this pill. So I feel you in that. And part of the manifestation of that as well was my greatest shadow of sexualizing and objectifying women.
Whoa.
And this is something I've come to recently talk about publicly, is because I know a lot of men are struggling with this. And the practice of semen retention is really what helped open this up for me. And meeting myself in that, and coming out of this last relationship I was in, where I know she was at the impact of that wound that I carried, the shadow of objectifying and sexualizing women, right? How that would be leaky in pornography or looking at other women in public when I'm with my woman, like that doesn't feel good. Yeah. And I wasn't acknowledging of the impact on my recent partner because that shadow was so loud. And so that's, I think, why I posed the question, because it pings that part of me that's wanting to be so dissociated from what I had gone through. Being in that culture of meaningless sex, where I look back now and I'm like, damn, dude, I was just dumping my trauma on all those women. I was dumping my resentment and anger and frustration towards my wounding with the feminine at an early age on all those women. right? And so, yes, it can be both. And it's like, this is where it's just fascinating to talk about these things, right? And going through this practice of semen retention, it had me confront a lot of those parts. And I was starting to have this experience of like, anytime I would sexualize or objectify a woman outside of me, this could be through a screen, this could be with my thoughts or eyes at the gym, this could be in relationship, however that appeared, I'm objectifying and sexualizing my own feminine within.
Whoa.
And if I'm doing that to myself, then I'm creating incongruency with my own masculine, feminine dynamics within, which means I'm creating a riff of distrust within myself.
Yeah.
And any lack of trust I have in self, I have a lack of trust in God.
Yeah.
And so that's really what this practice had taught me and helped me confront of like, I need to own this shadow publicly so I can learn from this in the reflection of people's reflections in that.
Beautiful, bro.
And so there's so much depth to that thing where it's like, yeah, I do see your perspective in the name. And I can acknowledge that it's pinging this part of me that I'm trying to reconcile within myself now.
Exactly.
And this is why just the ability to have the conversation is what makes it so powerful in the first place.
And beautiful. And I want to say thank you for sharing that, because I know that you're not alone in that. And I've definitely struggled with the same thing. And it makes me think also, my connection to the feminine myself, that's my tenderness. That's like my vulnerability. Yeah. And the more that I pushed that away, the more I would see women as an object. And the more I've been able to tap into my own tenderness, which I've always actually had access to. It's just I would look away, push it away, because I don't want people to hurt me. And the more I've been able to access that tenderness within myself, the more I see these like beautiful women. They're human beings. Yeah. They're expressions of God. They're somebody's daughter. And like when I would fuck around on dating apps, even like in undergrad, I remember I'd have these epiphanies like on Bumble or some shit where I would be like, this is somebody's daughter who's just looking for connection. Yeah. Dog, what am I doing? What the fuck is wrong with me? And it's like, what are the parts of myself that I was looking away from? The tenderness that I couldn't accept because it felt like weakness, because I wasn't actually intimate with it. Yeah. It's like, this is the way I put it, those tender parts of me. The image I get is like, you know, like a little fern when it's unfurling? Yeah. The little baby hairs on it. They're so sensitive. And they're so beautiful. And it's like, that is what I'm pushing away. My sensitivity to life, my receptivity to the subtleties here, energetically in relationship with myself. And when I could access that tenderness, I didn't need to objectify the women, because what I want is connection. I don't want the superficial sex, the physicality necessarily. Like, sure, in some senses, but what I want is connection. That's what my soul craves. So to hear you say that, bro, that just takes a lot of courage. That takes a lot of honesty. That takes a lot of, honestly, manning up and stepping up to the plate. And I really respect that. Because that's what it's about, man. In these times, can we be honest? Yeah. Can we recognize it's not wrong objectively? It's part of the path. It's part of the purification of consciousness. And I want to talk about how the name spiritual fuckboy again pinged you still, and it does with many people. It's just something gets triggered in the being. And like we said earlier, is it spiritual fuckboy that's triggering, or is it the part of self? Is it the reflection I'm seeing? And I don't like that part. What happens when we can learn to love that and not act from it? Yeah. Not act from it, but learn to love, oh, this is a part of me and you have a place. You're not going to drive the bus, as they say in internal family systems language, but this part of me has a place. It's okay. You can be integrated too. It's all okay. And the more that, again, I can integrate and accept these parts that seem unsavory, the more they start to fade. Because again, repression leads to obsession. And when I can accept, hey, maybe a part of me is a fuckboy, just like I would guess many, many men who don't want to admit it. Many, many men have that fuckboy part, and that's okay. And can we love that as a means of purifying that? And that's the thing. Like, my homie's like, are you going to be spiritual fuckboy when you're like 35 in a committed relationship? And I'm like, nah, his name isn't permanent. Nothing is permanent. This is an archetype that I try on as a means of purification of my own personal self, as well as the collective, and as well because it's fucking hilarious, I think. And it throws people off, and that is the teaching, right? Yeah. And it's, I think I need to talk about that more publicly, because I don't think a lot of people get it. Like, I from people I really respect, like you, other homies, other homies, I really respect them and they don't get it. And I'm like, oh, this is part of the teaching. Yep. I need to lay out where this is coming from, because it's not just an absent-minded, like, clickbaity name. It really is a teaching, and it's part of my expression, spiritually speaking, which is different than the conditioned paradigm around spirituality. It's I have deep reverence for life, deep reverence that has brought me to tears, feeling the presence of creation, of God, of spirit moving through me and in the world around me, brought me to tears. It's not like I'm irreverent. It's not like I push away the sacred, but I'm leaning into this practice of how can I make more things sacred? How can I learn to respect, honor, and hold all of the parts of creation that need to be recognized as a face of God in order to purify them? And this is how I see sort of one of the missions of material existence of life, which is the purification of consciousness, recognizing we're constructing everything, and the evil, the pain, the suffering that I see is actually a reflection of my own internal state. It's a reflection of mind. So the purification of consciousness for me is actually seeing where I push things away, where I construct my own suffering, and actually learning to love those things. Because when I can love and integrate all of the darkness, all the scariness, all of the unsavory parts, they start to fade. And everything is now beautiful and a face of God and clear. And that's part of what I see as the purification of consciousness, is how big is my heart? What can it include? Can it include all the, again, Bill Gates and those evil venomous reptilians that seem to be running the world? Can it include them? And I'm like, yeah, it can. I know it can, just like it can for everybody. The question is, do I have courage enough to hold that? And that's that process. That's that practice of growing into, maturing into really our truest self, leaning back into the heart, moving awareness from the mind into the heart, so that we recognize I can hold all of this and it all has a place. And this is a path, not just to freedom, but to tasting the bliss, the perfection of creation. And yes, there are things that we want to change. Obviously, we want more equality. We want more fairness. We want less violent conflict, of course. But at the same time, can I sense the perfection in the flow of it all? That it's perfect now, unimprovable, and it will be perfect in the future. And guess what? No matter how much work we do, there will always be room for improvement. So can I taste both of these paradoxes right now? There's infinite work to do, and also this is unimprovable right here, right now. And can I let the soul drink from that infinite water of the perfection of this place? And it's an open question. Can I? And if I can't, what is in the way? And it doesn't mean there's something wrong with you if you can't taste that perfection, but asking the question, what is in the way of me tasting that beauty and the perfection of creation right now? It reminds me of the Rumi quote, which is, your task is not to seek for love. Your task is simply to remove all the obstacles that are in its way. It's already here. Where do I put conditionality on my own love of myself, for instance? Where do I put conditions on my love of the world? I can only love the world if it looks a certain way. I can only love myself if it looks a certain way. Those are conditions. And actually, we have the key right now to unlock the heart and get rid of those boundaries. And that's the thing, the love's already there. And then it's flowing in and out of the heart organically when I remove the conditions on love. And this is the work that I'm doing personally. This is the work that I want to do collectively. This is the work that, again, that psychedelic substances, that psychedelic medicines are doing to aid our world and to like open people up to just becoming aware. Where are the ways that I push myself and the world away? Where do I keep it at arm's length? Where am I unable to hold, to embrace myself, to embrace the world? And can I embrace myself and the world even if it hurts? And that's an open question. Can I? And I will say from experience, the answer is yes. And will it hurt? Yes. But not forever. People, I think, get trapped thinking, oh, if I embrace my depression, if I embrace my lack, I'm just going to be there forever. And I'm like, no. That's a part of the process. It's like a baby crying. If there's a little baby crying and you just leave it, it's going to keep sobbing, begging for somebody to hold it. And once we do hold it, yes, it's going to keep crying maybe. It's going to keep, screaming. But after a while, the baby will stop crying. And so too will the pain that we experience in life start to fade. The more that we can open to it and embrace it.
Oh,
bro, this is absolute fire, my man. You're sick. So we didn't even get to talk about the elk hunt, dude, and I'm so curious about that.
Yeah, I can drop in on it for a few minutes.
Do we have time? Or we have time? All right, we have time. So let's talk about this. What are you doing out here in Colorado?
Yeah, I've just been going through this process lately of wanting to be more connected to my food. And we just live in a culture. I grew up in this culture where we're just so disconnected. We have no idea where it comes from. We have no idea the life that these animals live. Factory farming is one of the most disgusting practices on earth. I think we're going to look back in 50 years and be like, what the fuck were we thinking? What were we doing? And you know, I'm in Austin, Texas, so I'm blessed to be around some of the best cattle ranchers in the country. I see my farmers at the market every Saturday. I give them both hugs. We drop in. We're Facebook friends. Like, they invite me out to the farm. I get holiday wish texts from them. Like, really beautiful to be connected to my farmer in that way. And I'm still disconnected from that process. Yeah. Right. And a dear brother of mine, shout out Ken Conti. He leads this thing called the Ancestral Hunt School, where it's about coming back into right relation with the land, with the animals, with God, and like going through this process with such deep reverence and gratitude for this animal that you're bringing that into every time I commune with that meal. I'm remembering this process and how I prayed to that land and I grieved the life of that animal when I took it. And that's really what matters to me is there's so much dogma in diet culture right now. And the only thing undeniable in all of it is I don't care what you eat, there's death involved in that process. Yep. If you are eating plants, do it for whatever reason feels good for you, but don't deny the death involved in that process. Mm-hmm. Right? And it's whether it's one life of an animal that's going to feed me for a year, or eating the plants' communication is so intelligent we can't even crack the code of it, right? Like they have defense mechanisms, they have emotions, they feel in their own way. It's like everything is a reflection and emanation of consciousness. Yeah. Everything. Yeah. There's nothing that we eat that is not a reflection of consciousness. It is our judgment that has created these categories where an ant's life means less than a cow. Yep. Okay. If that's the paradigm you live in, I respect, just let's have that conversation. Yeah. And so being in this place where it's like, I want to be more respectful of the life of everything that I am incorporated in. And so it's like, even in Austin, I only buy local seasonal produce from my local farmers. I buy from my local cattle ranchers. Right. And so I think there's nothing more, not only primal, but connected to God than grieving the life of the animal as I take it. Amen. Because honoring the life of that thing when I'm with it, sometimes taking its last breath. I've been part of harvesting animals where I'm quite literally praying and grieving the animal as it takes its last breath. That shit stays with you, man. That stays with you, man. And I already have a beautiful practice of like taking a few minutes with my meal to just be present with it before I go in and scarf it and let the hunger of the mind take over the presencing of the body. Right. And just like blessing that up and praying over it and praying my gratitudes in it. What's going to connect me more than taking that animal's life? Yes. And so I think this is the future that we need to get back to. Not everybody's meant to be a hunter, but at least know the person that is harvesting your food, right? Pay attention. And this is how we bring all of our relations to food back in right relation. It's like, this is how we end factory farming. Support your local farmers. Support the ones doing things grass-fed and regeneratively. Support the ones that are honoring this animal by putting them in the ecosystem that is closest to how they live life anyway. Totally. Where they get to live a stress-free, because when people eat factory farm fruit, you're eating those stress hormones. Yeah. So you feel like shit in life, it's probably the fast food. Right? That chicken that has a 1 square foot area to move in its entire life that is just pumped full of its own cortisone and own depression. Yeah. And then you wonder why you're stressed and depressed. Bro. Yeah. Right. And so I'm in this place in my life where I want to connect so much more deeply to my food. And if I'm going to eat meat, hunting felt like the most obvious way.
Dude, thank you for saying that. And I've been on that wave for a minute. I got my hunter safety last year and I'm trying to bow hunt this coming September out here. And I've always had this knowing, because I spend a lot of time in the mountains. I spend a lot of time by myself, backpacking, trail running, in like really relatively isolated places here in Colorado, and being deeply connected to the land, being deeply connected to the forests, and seeing life and death, and recognizing there's nothing wrong with death. A tree that is now sprouting fungus oh wait, death is not an end necessarily. It's part of the continuity of creation. And I think that the more we separate ourselves from death by constructing a duality that it's wrong, that is a disease of the mind. That is what is leading us into a delusional relationship with death. When we can lean into it, embrace death as a necessary component of life. There's nothing wrong with it.
Mm-hmm.
Can we honor it instead of looking the other way, instead of living in fear of death for ourselves and for the animals around us? Can we honor it? And can we actually, when we, hunting wise, take a life, can we have that reverence? Of course we can. Having an open heart, I think again, open-hearted being that takes a life is going to feel some of that pain, some of that confusion, some of that fear in that creature. But there's something about being intimate with those experiences as you take that life in order to feed yourself and feed the people that you love. Where
man. I mean, for the animal's going to feed me for a year.
Yeah.
I'm going to carry that grief and gratitude, the paradox of grief and gratitude with me every single meal. I get to commune with that animal, right? And like, what's more beautiful? I would venture to say a lot of people that may judge this act, you're probably not that grateful for your meal when you go buy it at Whole Foods. And this is my own judgment coming in. I'll take ownership of that. But just from conversations I've had, it's like, we're so used to buying the prepackaged thing, throwing it in a home, throwing it in the stove, eating it real quick. And it's like, do you understand the process that went into that meal, which was also life in its own variation of incarnation?
Yeah.
Probably not. Yeah. We're not grieving the vegetables we buy at the store.
Yeah.
We're not grateful by the vegetables I buy at the store. I got to drive 4 minutes from my house to go pick up.
And I know that the closer we get to death, the more intimate we get with death, the more intimate we get with life. Mm-hmm. And I think a big part of the reason a lot of people feel like aren't in contact with life deeply is this deep ingrained unconscious resistance of the end of it all.
Yeah.
The
fear of it.
The fear of death. And when I can see death and I can see myself in that animal, I'm like, I'm right behind you, buddy. Mm-hmm. I'm right behind you. There's a deep acceptance for the flow of creation. Because again, spirituality is not about feeling good. It's about getting real. And spirituality and creation, period, is raw. We get so sheltered in this culture, and thus we don't have a relationship to death. Look at old folks' homes. Let's put them all in a home, and so we don't have to see them. Yeah. So we don't have to see death, disease, old age. This is what spawned the Buddha's quest to enlightenment, is seeing old age, illness, and death. And that's the thing. When we see that, it's a deep reflection about getting real with our situation. Fuck. We all gotta die. That's raw. And can I change my relationship to that from one that is or has been conditioned as, the ultimate thing to avoid? And yeah, sure, I don't want to die. But if it comes, it comes. And when it comes, it comes. Let's put it like that. When it comes, it comes. And am I going to go kicking and screaming? When I'm looking back at all the other beings that in a sense were me, same consciousness in them, that's the same consciousness in me. What relationship do I wish that those beings had with death? Likely one that was of acceptance, recognizing the more I resist death, the more suffering I am constructing for myself. So seeing hunting not as objectively wrong, it's about the relationship to it and letting spirit and really soul flow. Because I think there's a beauty in even the vegan model, the vegan expression of soul, as far as I don't want to hurt anything. It's beautiful, it's poetic, but it's not the only deeply true expression of soul in this place. The expression of soul that wants to be close to death, that wants to see it and look it in the eyes, equally as valid. And I think constructs a different world. And the question is, who are you? Being honest with ourselves, what way do I want to live? And recognizing there's no right and wrong. And can we own anyone else's choice? Yeah. If they want to hunt, if they want to eat veggies only, beautiful, beautiful. If they want to, feed factory farming, I think there's just more awareness we need to bring that situation, because I think it is dark. Yeah. Dark. And so Austin, thank you so much, man. This is one of my favorite conversations ever.
Me too, man.
And hopefully the first of many. Do you want to shout out yourself, your Socials, anything like that?
Yeah, anybody can find me. My website and my socials. I am Austin West, and I'm in men's work. I got the microdosing mission, and a few other things. So if people want to connect, I always love having these conversations and open up that space. And I'm just here for the evolution of consciousness, man.
Amen.
We're
brother.
all in this shit together.
Yeah, we are.
Yes, sir.
Whether we like it or not. All right. Well, thank you guys for listening, and let me know what you think. This is Spiritual Fuckboy with me, Ben Duffy, as you likely know. So thank you guys.